There is this expression in Itako language. That is, if you are not ready to suffer, then you are not ready for work. If you are not ready to work, then you are not ready for joy or for enjoyment. What we are celebrating tonight, the Passover, we can talk about it for a whole year without stopping. It is a memorial. The Passover is a memorial. If you look at Edo language, people express that this word memorial in different form. Like in Letako, you say Iyere, I remember. I'm sure the Beninese have a way of saying it. Ayere. And they give those names to children. What do you think the Israelites will remember in their Old Testament Passover? Because the Old Testament concept of the Passover is, first, God was good to our forefathers, our ancestors. Today, God is still good to us. And tomorrow, God will not abandon us. But what brought the Israelites to this awareness? It was just the hatred of brothers to a brother. The hatred of brothers to a brother. What if Joseph was not sold to Egypt? There would have been no need for the liberation of the Israelites from the slavery in Egypt. And look at the context under which Joseph was sold. It was in the context of a meal, food. Joseph took food to his brothers who were taking care of sheep. But meanwhile, he had been dreaming that one day the brothers will bow to him. And they call him Joseph the Dreamer. The big thing is, how we, your elder brothers, bow to you? And he was narrating his experience out of love. One of my old Mosaino told me once that his father was very open and his father was present in a meeting of the Council of Elders because the father would not accept that they should disobey the anointing. But that is a story for another day. So when it came out of these brothers, like Reuben, some still had a feeling. They still remember their constitution, their traditional rules. He shed no blood. But the long and short of the story was, they ate the food that Joseph brought for them. They didn't throw the food away. They ate the food. They still decided that they would kill him. As his God doesn't know, why should we kill him? He said, they have already put him in a hole and there was no water inside. And of course, they now sold him to the Ishmaelites. Joseph was sold from one hand to the other until he got to the house of Potiphar, the Pharaoh's palace. He has temptations, That is why if God destined you for something, like I've always told myself, anytime I have deprivation, I know that God has something greater for me. All my deprivations in life have given me greater opportunities. And like I said in one of my books, Freedom to Live, I said, like a well-trained actor, my failure is my teacher. Potiphar's, that is the wife of Pharaoh, sincerely loved this man. But the love was not the authentic love. It was erotic. And this Joseph had respect for the traditional institution. He said, this man is caring. I will not do that. And of course, you know the remaining story. But then God gave a gift to Joseph, the gift of dreams. And eventually, Joseph became one of the leading figures in the land of Egypt. While the people who sold Joseph were suffering, Joseph was in charge of the Commonwealth. And they had to go there to go and buy grains. And the long story, the summary of the long story is that Joseph's father, the whole of Israel, had to move to Egypt. And of course, after some time, there was a Pharaoh who did not know Joseph, and they became slaves. But remember that Joseph's bones, Joseph and his father were really not actually buried in Egypt. But something happened that God had to deliver these people through a child that was supposed to have been killed. You could see the way God is bringing meaning through tragedy. So when you are going through tragic moment, so the Passover is deeper than merely passing the blood. No. The Passover actually is rising from grass to grace, rising from our crisis, from our problems to our destiny. Moses, by chance, was rescued when all the boys were being killed. There's something we should know about Moses here in this Passover context. He had all the privileges of royalty, but he never forgot his root. God for once. You know, sister was telling me yesterday that his root, and in the process, he was not carried away by the luxury of the palace. And eventually, the long and short of the story is that he succeeded in trying to get the people out of Egypt. And of course, you know how much he suffered. And after all the signs and wonders, the last one is what we are celebrating today, the Passover meal. I should put the blood in the later. At that Passover, let me call it the first Mass. Today we call it Mass. That Passover is what we call Mass today. That it was not celebrated in any synagogue. It was not celebrated in the temple. That Passover was not celebrated in the basilica. It was not celebrated in the cathedral. It was not even celebrated in the parish house. It was not celebrated in any church. It was a family celebration. And this is the rite of the liturgy. Every family, you have to get a lamb the lamb that you can finish. And if you know that you cannot finish it, you have to share that lamb with another family. And nothing must remain. And you must eat it in haste. Why do they need to eat it in haste? Because you do not procrastinate salvation. And of course, Jesus Christ gave us salvation. He didn't have to wait till when he was 100 years old. So you could see that it's like the coronavirus or the COVID-19 is trying, like Sister Teresa Okure will say, is taking us back to our roots. The gospel of today, Jesus Christ celebrating this Passover, it was not in a church, it was in a family house. And coincidentally, these houses that they were being used by the apostles were owned by women. It is women who prepared their houses for these celebrations that they were having. So, St. Paul will tell us that you are the temple. It is not the walls. And that is why Christ looked at the temple and he said, one day you will not see one stone on top of the other. And of course, you know the temple was destroyed in 17 AD. So, this is what we are doing today, the Passover. Passing over from suffering to glory. And St. Paul in the second reading is telling us, is giving us his own testimony about the Passover. How it was done in the past. As a memorial of the goodness of God. So, what is the lesson for the world today in this Passover feast? The lesson is very simple. That we should not gloom over our situations. That we should, wherever you find yourself, ask yourself, what does God want me to do here? Conscious of that our humanity is the same. So the word, as it were, the Midwest people have been talking about restructuring. God is restructuring the world. And if we have sense, after this whole episode, if we really stick to what the Lord is saying now, this world will be better. Yesterday, when I led the CBCN delegate to see the SGF, they told the SGF that we have 430 Catholic hospitals that we are ready to offer to take care of the COVID-19 patients. And that the Dr. Okechukwu could also assist if there's any emergency. Immediately I came back, one sister called me and said, I hope we are not handing over our hospitals the way we handed over our schools to government. And I said, no, it is not. I don't think it's going to be like that. So the point we are trying to make now is that we are looking for collaboration. When we were making that presentation, I was right in the studio because eventually they allow us to have. I put my phone on the ground. I didn't put it on. I only put it on silence. So the man who was with me, because we were two, he now was narrating how the Muslims have been raising food items to help people. One reverend sister just tells her father, first time, they are also bringing food. Social parties, they are giving food. So I landed on it and I started, in fact, what I prepared, the messages that were coming to my phone was what I was. So Catholics, I didn't know they were watching it. Then the ending I got was what somebody posted to me. One sister Christiana said, he said, Jesus is not quarantined. We can go to our rooms and encounter Jesus there. So, as we mark the Passover feast today, we also should learn the lesson of humility. You know, for the Paschal sermon, I listened to it, and he was saying that this is the first time Peter denied Christ but not allow his feet to be washed. Why did Peter not allow his feet to be washed? He knew the implication. Because traditionally in Israel, you know, they have hot sand. When you come to somebody's house, they call the meanest slave to come and wash the feet of the visitor. So for Jesus to start washing the feet, they couldn't stand it. And of course, you know, last week when the video that was trending about the Pope Francis kissing the feet of the monks. Father, why should that be? And I said, then you should as well ask me, why did Pope John Paul II, whenever he visited a country, he would come from the plane and kiss the floor of that country? And it all shows our humility. And that is why the Pope John Paul II, used the expression servant servorum Dei, the servant of the servant of God. So like I said yesterday in NTA, let us pray that very soon we will sing COVID-19 as Feliz Cuba. You know the meaning of Feliz Cuba? Happy 4th. The necessary sin of Adam that merit for us such a wonderful Redeemer. But I think that after this whole episode, we will never be the same again. So Jesus Christ ended up by telling Peter, you call me master? Yes, I am. No doubt. Go and do the same to others. And of course, for those who are in academics, they know that the higher you become, the more humble you should be. Do you know that each time people visit me here, the first question they ask me is, and by the grace of God, I've come to know the whole children in the house. Through that, the same God that led Joseph to victory, to royalty, that same God is still alive. Now that Corona is crowning everybody, the kings and the slaves and the serfs, all of us will pray that when the time comes for us to go, may we not die mysteriously. But when we die at the end of the day, may God give us eternal life. Amen. At least we can talk more like this today because we have the whole night for ourselves. Please, let us join our mother that we bless is a communion with the blood of Christ. So whenever we raise up this cup at Mass, just know that your intentions are included, whether pronounced or not. I'll pray for all our children, especially those outside, that God may protect them from all forms of viruses. They will come back to us safe and sound. They will bring joy to us. They will bring victory. And we also pray for those of us at home that will remain strong for them to the greater glory of God through Christ our Lord. Amen. And may the grace of our